are throughout the state. If you can't make any of those, in the spring, Xavier High School also has a college fair that you could attend that is pretty well attended by our students and parents as well. Maybe you may want to go again. So you'll be able to see a listing there of different schools that you'll get that are going to be there, and tech colleges, military, all that, who will be there. Just back to the Wisconsin Education Fairs, I did forget to mention that you do need to pre-register for that event. And it's actually a huge advantage for you. So you go out to that website that I have on there, the WEF.org, and you'll pre-register. And what it'll do is it'll give you a barcode. When you go to those education fairs, you can hand them the barcode, and they'll scan it, and they have all your information that you wanted to provide them. So instead of having to fill out a card out for every school that you might be interested in, or whoever it might be, you can just give them the barcode, and it'll save you time. So you will need to do that. And I do believe in the past, I haven't heard this year if you guys have, but they have given out like an iPad or something for people who have registered. So another bonus, right? And then also we have a program called You Plan. It's a workshop that'll be here September 14th, Kimberly. And it really is just a program to help families plan for financial costs that are associated with post-secondary options. So something that parents can come in and experience, and students as well. It might be helpful. Throughout the school year, we do use Facebook and Twitter. We may be using another avenue, and we would like to know that, but right now, Facebook and Twitter, we do put posts out there, reminders of ACT signups, things like that. So if you could follow us on those, you would get that information. That might be helpful for you. There's so much going on all the time. It's hard to keep track of all that, so sometimes those little reminders like, holy cow, I didn't know the deadline was today for that, and you can still get that in. And then the next thing is todaysmeet.com. As we're going through our presentation, sometimes some people aren't real comfortable, especially with this big venue of people here, of asking questions. You can go to todaysmeet.com/KHS. So if you have a phone or any device with you, you can go ahead and post any of your questions on there, so we will go through all of them at the end as well. They do ask for a name, so you can make up a name. We don't post the names of whoever is asking the question. It's anonymous that way, but it asks you to put in a name. Okay, and so for today's focus, what we really want to get through today is want to talk about what are the different options for students after high school. What we do find is a lot of students really don't investigate all of those options. So, my parents did this, so I'm going to do that. And we really want you to know what all your options are, so then you make a really good decision before you head down a certain path. So we'll talk about that. We're going to review the Education and Career Information booklet that was emailed to everybody. And you can follow on the device. It's also available on our website. So if you're logging in right now, you can go to the Kimberly website, go to the high school student services, and then there's on the left-hand menu it says Junior Seminar. So if you click on that, you'll see the booklet there as well. So we'll go over that today. And so we'll talk to you about what's inside of the booklet and how can students and parents use that booklet to help them through this process and reach their goals. And then also we're going to talk about how to access some resources that can assist you, and then time for question and answers. So before we do that, the most exciting thing to talk about, all the testing that's available to students. And so some information I just want to go on. So first of all, ACT. You can register for the ACT on actstudent.org. There's a lot of information on their website for students. There's questions of the day, prep information. It talks about the ACT fees, services for students with disabilities, all kinds of information that's out there. So you want to maybe check that out for other things other than just registering. When a student takes the ACT, or the amount of times a student will take it, really varies by student. Students tend to take the test 2 to 3 times. Some will take it more, some will take it less. Again, it just depends upon how comfortable your student is and if they're happy with their score. Students in the past, if we had to pick dates when would be the best time to take it, this was before we gave the state test, we would always say February and June would be the key ones if we had to pick for anybody. The reason why we say February, you just finished all of your first semester curriculum, and in June you finished the year. Now, that might change for some of you how you look at that, because at the end of February this year, you will take the ACT. All juniors at Kimberly High School take it here, okay? So some students have been taking it in the February or March. It'll either be February or March every year, depends on where it falls in the calendar, and then they take it in June. And if they need to again, they can still take it their senior year as well, okay? With the juniors, they also, with the ACT, part of that package suite, they also take what's called a Work Keys assessment. And this measures real-world skills for them. And it's skills that employers are believed to be critical for job success. So not only are they successful in school, but are they able to have those soft skills, time management, things like that. That's what's kind of looking for. So test questions are based on situations in everyday work world. Students who do well in the assessment can earn the ACT's National Career Readiness Certificate, which is a portable credential that demonstrates their achievement in a certain level of workplace employability skills. And more information will come their way as we go forward. That will be sent your way. ACT, there is an ACT prep class. That's one of the forms that were out there. Mrs. Phillip will show you where that's online as well. And so that registration, if you would like your student to get some prep instruction on preparing themselves for the ACT, we've seen students do anywhere from a point to up to 3 points higher as a result. So we've seen it to be pretty valuable. So maybe talk with maybe some older class, seniors, and ask them if they've taken it, what they thought of it. Most students seem to get a lot out of it. And then SAT, we don't have a lot of students that take the SATs. We're an ACT state for many, many moons. But we do post the dates. Students will still take it. There are some schools, more of the coastlines, that will require an SAT over an ACT. So whenever you're looking at a school, you always need to make sure, what do I need? Most schools will accept either or. There's a conversion chart, but there are some schools out there that still want one or the other, or they want both. So it's always important that you're always making sure that you're looking at what are the criteria that schools are looking for. Also with the SAT, they have a plethora of information out there for students and parents as well that can be utilized whether you're going to take the SAT or not. Very similar information is found on the ACT website as well. The PSAT exam, some of you have signed up for the PSAT exam. That's October 19th, 7:30 in the morning. It takes us until about 11 o'clock. Cost is $16. So if you registered already, a test has been ordered. There are very few seats that are left available for that exam. So if you would like to do that, I think we have about 10 seats left. You would register in our office and pay the $16 there. The reason why this is a question that I read, because there's so many tests and the acronyms, but the PSAT, the reason why a student might want to take it, it's not a mandated test. It's not something you have to do. But I believe that the more experienced students have with standardized tests, the better they get at it. Okay, and so it's a fairly inexpensive test. Again, it's not a necessity, but there is a National Merit Scholarship competition associated with the PSAT, and you can only qualify when you take it your junior year. Okay, so some students may have in here have taken it their sophomore year. So last year was a practice, this year is when it would count. So if you do well, you can potentially earn some scholarship. The other purpose, now we don't have, so many kids getting those scholarships every year, but we have some kids that make some qualifications for that. Every year we usually have one or two. But the other reason why we offer it is there's some local scholarships that require you to have taken the PSAT to apply for their scholarships. So I remember, it's probably now been 7 or 8 years ago, we had a student who would have had a $1,000 scholarship. Nobody else applied, but they didn't take the PSAT and they couldn't get the money. So that's another reason we want our students to know and be aware of that. Okay. AccuPlacer, another exam that students may take. This is a test that's used by the technical college system. It will determine if you have the appropriate skills and be admitted into a particular program of study at the technical college level. And what they do is the test will provide you with useful information, what academic skills in math and English and reading. And it's available for you to take here at Kimberly High School. We offer it quarter 2, 3, and 4 one time. Otherwise, you also can register for it out at Fox Valley Technical College, so that's available for you there as well. And then lastly is the ASVAB. Anybody here and parents have taken the ASVAB? A few of you. I know I took it in high school, and it said I should be a high school counselor, and I laughed, and here I am. It's a great aptitude test that measures your abilities in the different areas and can relate your abilities to careers. So a lot of times when you take like a career inventory, when you're relaying the information there, you're saying what you think you're good at, because sometimes you're relaying information about I might be good at it, but I've never done it. So what's nice about the ASVAB, if you're not sure what you want to do, this might be something that you want to take, because it can give you valuable information about, based on your abilities, how does that align to different careers in the workforce and in the world. So if you wanted to do that, we don't have a date scheduled yet, but it's either in October or November. If you're interested and you want your student to take the assessment, just have them step in our office and sign up for it. And it is the military test, so I always like to say that. It does not sign you up for the military. If you're going in the military, you will take that test. They already will have your name, because by law we have to provide that to them, so, but that doesn't connect you to the military. Sometimes people worry about that. Okay? Mr. Viola is up next here for you.
Good to see everybody here tonight. We have a good showing, and we're really happy about that, because that's the whole idea of us putting a presentation on for the juniors. Junior year is a very important year in our opinion. You know, it wasn't long ago, most of you students in the room, obviously just a couple months ago, you were sophomores. And up until that, you know, through sophomore year, there were things that you did in school to get you thinking about careers and things that you might want to do after high school. But I think it's just human nature for most of us not to think real deeply about that up until that point. Junior year is the time we think that people need to start thinking more critically, and I'm talking to students, to think more critically about what you want to do, because in a year from now, you're going to be applying to college or tech school or military or whichever avenue that you want to go. And it comes fast. You know, the first 2 years of high school went fast. Trust me, the second 2 will go even quicker. And we want you to start thinking critically about what door you want to walk through. So, can we hit play just to get the doors to open? Little visual. We kind of think about what you can do after high school as 5 doors you can walk through. And our job as a high school is to prepare you as best we can and to help you prepare yourself to walk through one or maybe more of those doors. They're not opening, but... Oh, they went already. Okay, fine. So, like I said, we want to prepare you to walk through one or more of those doors. But we are not here to steer you any particular way. We talk about things, we talk about four-year colleges, technical schools, military, as you can see behind me. But we need you to think critically about it and make the best decision you can make for who you are as a person and what your skills are. And so in the career planning student guide, there's pages that you can read about all these things. And I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence, but as a counselor, I find more times than not, people think they know what four-year college means, or what technical college means, or what an apprenticeship is, but they oftentimes don't. So I'm going to quickly go through each one. But again, in the career planning guide, you can read more about that. So in no particular order, I'm going to start with the college or university, what we call a four-year college. Although these days it seems to be 4.5, 5 years. The college and universities are set up very similar to how a high school is set up. In that the first couple years, all the students are doing some math, some science, some social studies, some phy-ed, some history, so on and so forth. And then when you get into the second half of college, you start taking more classes in the major that you've chosen, in the major and minor that you've chosen. So there's kind of a set bunch of classes that everybody has to take, and then somewhere around halfway through, you start kind of going in the direction that you were going there for in the first place. So when I talk to kids about that, I say it's a lot like high school. Your freshman year, everybody had to take these 5.5 credits, and then you got to pick a few electives. And then as you got older, the electives became more and more, and you can start going in the direction that you wanted to go in. And that's basically how a four-year college is set up. Technical colleges, on the other hand, are very different. Technical colleges are generally 1 or 2 year degrees, and they're set up much more specifically to what you're going there for. So for instance, if you're going to Fox Valley Tech for a police science degree, your first day of class, you're going to be taking a lot of police science type classes. And there's, I'll say, less of the math, the science, the social studies, those types of things. Again, dependent on what you're going there for, but again, the difference between a technical college and a four-year college is the amount of time you're there and how specific it gets when you first start. Technical colleges throughout our state vary quite a bit in what they offer. And in the course booklet, if you look, you can take a look at all the different technical colleges as well as the four-year colleges, and then you can go to those colleges' websites and see what they have to offer. Lots of good things in-state, and obviously there's much more out-of-state that you can look at as well. Next on the list is the apprenticeship program, which is linked to technical colleges, but it's not exactly the biggest part of the technical college. Apprenticeship programs are getting more and more popular, and I'm going to give an example. There's an apprenticeship program for people that want to become electricians. And what students do, either at the tail end of high school or once they're out of high school, is they link up with an employer who's willing to take them on as an apprentice. And some employers will take you on for a few months and just kind of try you out, see what kind of a worker you are. And if they find out that they want to take you on as an apprentice because you're a good worker, they'll then sign you on for that. In an apprenticeship program, they vary, but basically the way they work is you would work 4 days a week with somebody who's a master. Let's say it's an electrician, a master electrician. You'll work 4 days a week alongside that person, learning those on-the-job skills as you're doing it. And then 1 day a week, that employer is paying your way to the tech college, so you're taking tech classes. So you usually do that for 4 or 5 years, and by the end you become the master, let's say, electrician, and your college has been paid for. All the college classes that you had to take were paid for by the employer. And by the way, as you're working those 4 days a week, you get paid. You're getting a paycheck, and usually those paychecks are pretty good. So apprenticeship programs are becoming more and more popular. I can't list them all. Again, in the booklet there's a link, and you can find a site, but I know there's apprenticeship programs for plumbing, for electricity, for some machining types of things. Oftentimes more hands-on kind of things. Next on the list is military. And you have your active, more full-time military that some students choose to go into straight out of high school. Or you have the part-time military, like the National Guard or the Army Reserves. Full-time is obviously, it's what it is. You sign on the dotted line, you want to go into the military, and you get shipped off and go to boot camp and then start in the active military, and that's your job for the next 4 years. The part-times can vary, but some people will choose to do that just because they want to do it part-time, yet they want to have a job outside of their military career. Other people do the part-time thing through an ROTC program, where they are choosing to go to college first, some type of college or technical college. The military is usually paying for that college, and then once you're done with college, because you went through the program and they paid for it, you are now going to go and work in the military and serve your time in the military. We've had many students through my years here who have gone both routes, and it just seems like it works out well, as long as those students have researched which one works well for them. Little side note, there are recruiters that come to school. They're always willing to talk to kids. We can set that up. I find the recruiters that come to our school are not too overbearing like sometimes they were when we were younger. We work very well with them, and they're very good at just sitting down, even if the Army guy happens to be here, but you're interested in the Navy. Those recruiters will sit down and talk to you about that and just fill you in on some things about the Navy. And then we as counselors can help set you up with the recruiter that you want if you want to pursue that further. Lastly is just the world of work. We're finding more and more these days, college isn't for everybody. And whether it's the cost or whether it's just someone just doesn't want to do more education, that style of education. I always give an example, maybe your uncle owns a business somewhere in the Fox Valley, and you can just slide into a position and kind of learn as you go. Nothing wrong with that. It's a good way of learning, and it might turn out to be a great career for somebody. So don't overlook that either, or don't think that you're less of a person because you chose to go that route and all your friends are going to some type of college. There's nothing wrong with that. Like Mrs. Hoffman said, we want people just to educate themselves so they can choose the best door to walk through. So again, I'm going to remind you, in the career planning guide, which is on our website, and you can download it and print it off, I just can't stress enough how important that guide is. We put a lot of time into that. There's a lot of good information and good tools in that guide, and we really hope that you use those things. So Next, Mrs. S is going to come up and just kind of briefly go through a few more things that are inside the planning guide.
All right, thanks everybody again for coming tonight. I'm going to walk through some of the great resources that we have in this book for you. If you do have a device and you want to follow along, again, you can find it on the KHS website under Student Services. Then on the left-hand side, you can see Junior Seminar. And then once you're there is the KHS Education Career and Family Guide. You can download that at home, print the pieces you need, print the whole thing, but it's a great resource, as Mr. Bielo said, that you can use. The first couple of pages really just go through the different career standards through the state that we use here as our counselors. Just the different career content standards that we're teaching kids. There is a page on page 5 that has the resource that we've always used, Wisconsin Career Pathways, and I know Mrs. Tenney is going to talk a little bit more about this and about other resources that we're going to use as well for career exploration, finding good fits, and other resources. Again, there's a flow chart, like Mr. Biolo talked about, for finding kind of the path that you want to be on. And then the next part that I want to draw your attention to really just kind of summarizes a lot of the information that Mrs. Hoffman and Mr. Biolo already talked about, but that is a timeline of different things that you can do, different things that you should be starting to look at, research through your junior and senior year. Again, I really just want to stress that your junior year is about finding research, exploring options, educating yourself on yourself. What's the best fit for you? What path is going to be the best fit for you to be on? Starting to prepare yourself so that you're ready to jump on that path once you graduate high school. So really August and September, determining when you might want to take the ACT if you're going to take it more than the February time, other tests that you might have to take depending on what area you're going to go into, looking at the different college fairs that are out there. It says in here and on the website when those different fairs are. So again, once you see those dates, put them in your calendar so that you know when they're coming, or even just reminders, hey, this month I need to start thinking about this. In October, again, is the ASVAB. It goes through that timeline. And then moving on into junior year, again, February is the big date when the whole state will take the ACT. More college fairs in March, and then just making sure that you're looking at the registration dates that are available again on the website for any tests that you need to take to prepare. Just a reminder for males, once you turn 18, you do need to register with the Selective Service, and that reminder is in the booklet a couple of times for you, as well as the website where you can go. Senior year, the biggest thing that I can say is apply early to the different schools that you want to go to. Make sure that you're looking at the different application guidelines for each college, university, tech school, employment, apprenticeship, whatever path that you're going to be on. Make sure that you're looking under each category for what you need to do, because they do differ between the different colleges, between the different paths. So just making sure that you know what you need to do for the path that you're on is the best advice that I can give you. Something else that's changed starting this year is that you can start your application for the FAFSA, so the free application for federal student aid, that you can start applying for October 1st of your senior year. So you'll use the previous year's tax information in W-2s. It used to be in January, but it's a few months earlier. So that's a big date next year that you're going to look at. October 1st is when you can start applying for that. And then later in the year, just start really narrowing down your final choice, how you're going to get there, making sure that you're registering on a website called Parchment for any transcripts that you need. It's a website that we'll show you in a little bit, but that's where you can get all of your transcripts, re-okay them, and then they get sent to whatever employer, agency they need to go to. The next page is just a really great resource for helpful websites, anything from military to UW Help, technical colleges, scholarships, just a whole laundry list of different resources that we have, websites that will be useful to you over the next couple of years. Something that I really want to highlight next is job shadowing. I really encourage everybody to do some type of a job shadow so that you can kind of get your feet wet into the different career that you might want to do someday. Ask questions, find out what a day in the life is going to be like. Don't be afraid to try different things that you're interested in because that's going to give you a feel if that really is a good fit for you or not. If you are interested in setting up a job shadow, you can stop in student services. There's a job shadow request form. We have a lot of different resources to set you up with somebody so you can have that experience. And I really, truly encourage all of you to take advantage of that. It's a great opportunity. Again, this just goes into the college entrance exams. I know Ms. Hoffman talked to you a lot about those, about the SAT, the ACT, the ASVAB, the active place there. Again, just really make sure that you know which test that you need to take for the path that you're going to go on. And just make sure that you know those deadlines and those dates so that you can get registered for them. Again, we have a lot of resources besides this booklet to show you where those dates are. The next big part of this book really talks about what Mr. Viola talked about in choosing the different post-secondary options. So I'm going to kind of skip that part since he talked to you about the different apprenticeships, colleges, technical colleges, military, and employment. Again, I just want to touch base that we do have military recruiters and college recruiters come to our school. You can set up appointments to meet with them. Please come and get a pass from student services. Let your teacher know that you're going to be there, but we welcome you to come down and get information about the possible opportunities for you after high school. So again, those resources are available to you. The other thing I kind of touched on already, but just make sure when you're choosing your next path, you know the admission standards for where you want to go because they do differ between the different colleges and universities. So it's competitive, it's selective. Make sure you're aware of the deadlines again. Reference colleges that you're interested in, and just remember there's many factors that go into selection for different colleges, universities, tech schools. Grade point average, class rank, test scores, strength and rigor of the different classes that you're taking, different activities, any volunteering, personal essays, interviews, letters of recommendation, things like that. I advise you to do a letter of recommendation that sets that in the timeline early at the end of this year. Start thinking about who would be someone good to write a letter of recommendation. We have forms in student services and some out on the table back there that you can fill out and give to somebody to write a letter of recommendation for you. Just gives a little bit more background information about yourself, things that you've been involved in, activities. It helps the person writing just really try to get a comprehensive picture of you. So I really recommend that you fill one of those out after you ask somebody to write a letter and give that to them to aid them in that process. I'm briefly going to go over the Wisconsin admissions standards. Just want you guys to think about too that these standards are naturally built into Kimberly's graduation requirements, but again, make sure that you're looking at the different colleges and universities that you're applying to. But generally it's 4 credits of English, 3 of math, so math 1 through 3 for example, 3 of science, 3 of social studies, and 4 electives from foreign language, fine arts, computer science, or other academic areas. Another great resource that I want to tell you about starts going into if you're looking out of state for different colleges. There is a website called the Midwest Higher Exchange Compact that has reduced tuition rates if you're applying to different schools such as Indiana, Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, and Wisconsin. You enroll as a non-resident student in one of those schools participating in that program and you receive a discount. So again, it's an online resource that you can use, a program that you can use to get some of those reduced tuition rates. So if you are thinking of going out of state to one of those states, I highly recommend that you check out that resource and see the website is right on there in that book that you can use. And again, just a reminder that Wisconsin and Minnesota have tuition reciprocity so that you would pay the same as a Minnesota resident for Minnesota. Again, just make sure this is really about knowing yourself. What is the best path for you? Now is the time to really start exploring. Tour different colleges. The next part of this booklet really has different resources for helping you narrow down what's the best fit for you. It has different questions about knowing yourself, looking at the characteristics that are most important in a college for you. The next few pages are just checklists for you for a college search, what's important to you, different factors for admission, are you meeting those factors for admission? You know, something that I want to tell students too is When you're applying for different schools, think of some different schools that you're interested in. Have your dream school. Have a school that you really would like to go to, and maybe have a backup plan just in case. Keep your options open for what you want to do, and don't narrow things down too much of yourself too if you are looking for different schools. There's information about campus visits, what to ask, different locations. There's a grid so you can kind of compare different places that you're going to. Even if you want to compare the UW Extension, a tech school, a four-year school, and really start to narrow down what is the best fit for you. You can use that for that resource as well. Just a reminder, it's okay to be undecided about a major. Most colleges provide services to help students select, because I know that's something that students worry about. I'm not really sure what I want to do, but I know I want to go to school for something. Again, you're going to have more resources for helping you decide what's a good fit. I know I might talk a little bit more about that too, but you don't have to panic if you don't know exactly too. There's more information and contact information about the apprenticeship programs. More information than Mrs. Hoffman in room 2012 that has the information for you about that if you're interested. So she's the contact person for the youth apprenticeship program. There's a checklist for the military, and also some checklists and some information if you're interested in going into the world of work right away. For your job search, resources for preparing your resume, where you can start looking to find different jobs in the area that you want to go to. So there's some information and some resources there for you too as to where to look for where is the best place for me to get to work right away. How can I do that? Again, I mentioned the FAFSA you're going to do every year once you are going to school, and again, October 1st of next year is the day that you really need to remember for the FAFSA, for student and financial aid, the different types of loans that you'll qualify for. And scholarships, we can't forget about scholarships. I know we're going to have a listing on our webpage for different scholarships. There's also a look in student services where students can come and look. In this booklet, there's a list of scholarships available to juniors. There's more scholarships available to seniors. Fastweb.com is a resource that a lot of students use for an online website. But otherwise, more of the local scholarships we'll have right here online. You can print them off, send them in. A lot of those you'll do senior year, but again, don't forget to start looking now because there are scholarships available to juniors, and there is a list in the back of this book. So that sums up kind of everything in the book, and again, you can take the different pieces that will apply to you and use them, but I encourage you not to forget about this book. It's a great resource that you can use as you're starting that path, the path to choose where you want to go, and just compare some of the different options that are out there for you and what's going to fit best. Mrs. Phillip now is going to talk about the website and show you some more resources that we have right on our website.
Good evening, everybody. So far we talked about lots of information in lots of different locations. The website's a good resource that kind of brings it all together. So I'm going to go through just the components on the left-hand side to show you what's in each area. The website's obviously different this year, so it might be a good overview of where all the information is. So the first thing, to get to our department's website, you go to Kimberly High School and then Student Services, which is in the bottom left side. The first main page that pops up is the Student Services staff, which was all the counselors, and then Mrs. Van Clayk and Mrs. Pott, who are the secretaries that work in our office. Down below is a good resource to have because it goes over all of the upcoming events that are happening. If it's the ACT exam, when to register for certain events, things that are upcoming. So we update this very frequently, so it's kind of a good spot to check every so often. The link up on top is the ACT prep. The ACT prep sheet that we handed out when you came in. It's also available in our office and then online. You're not actually going to click on it, but that's what that is as well. As I continue to scroll down, I'm just going to show you the course book is available on this main page as well. You can look at the entire course description book or each category, depending on the subject area that you're interested in looking at. So that's there as well. Back up to the top, just a quick overview of some different components that are on this site. AP testing, which obviously won't be until later in the year, but it's a good link to know where it is. It'll go over registration dates, when tests are, so that's a good spot to know where that is. The career planning tab, as we talked about, the different doors, the different directions students are able to go. These are some good resources to check into as well. The next tab is regarding athletics at the college level. If you are someone who is hoping to play a sport in college, the NCAA is a resource that is something that's required. So it's a good location and something to know where that is as well. Junior seminar, we touched on that earlier. If I click on that, that's going to have the PowerPoint from today, the book to download that Mrs. Sigsbee went over, and then also the recording of our presentation from this evening as well. Rep recruiter visits. Obviously, there isn't too many visits scheduled at this time of the year. This list will grow. This is always updated, and if there's someone you're hoping to see, stop down in our office and pick up a pass. Scholarship information, like we talked about earlier, here is actually where the scholarship list is located. There's scholarships available for juniors, so your junior year, and then obviously your senior year. We are also going to be adding scholarships to the Career Cruising website, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So scholarships are available in multiple locations this school year. Student links. Why I bring up this tab is the recommendation letter form that we talked about earlier. If you're hoping to get an online copy, that is on this link tab. And then finally, for just update of the website transcripts, we talked about that. Parchment is the system that we use for requesting transcripts. So it's possible that you can actually go in and create a username and password and have your account activated for Parchment. So that's the system that's used for sometimes scholarship transcripts, but usually college, tech school will use Parchment. That's the last tab. And in that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Tenney, who's going to talk about our next area.
All right, so just really quickly, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the new state initiative called Academic and Career Plans, or ACPs. This will be rolling out officially at the start of next school year, but this year we are piloting to 50% of our junior class. If you were involved in that pilot, it was randomly selected, you would have received a letter in the mail and also in your email that kind of runs through why we're doing this. It's a really good opportunity for you all to have a say in what this is going to look like, okay? Because this is a student-led initiative, and this is all about you and your future, so we really value your feedback. If you've got more questions specific to the pilot, you can contact Josh Simmers, and his information is on the bottom of that letter, or you can email myself, and my contact was there as well. Academic and career plans are really a piece of the puzzle that we've been talking about a lot, and that is, who are you? Okay? What we want to do is have our students, when they graduate, know who they are, so that way they can make the best career decisions for themselves. On top of that, we're really looking to have students be intentional about the experiences that they're having in high school. So I'm taking a social studies class and I'm doing this project. How could this relate to a future career? And having them think more intentionally and get more buy-in out of their schooling. Okay? So there's going to be a lot of different components and pieces that are going to get pulled together as we finalize ACP for the roll-up next year, and there'll be lots of information about that as well. The tool that we're using to kind of keep all of this academic and career plan things together is Career Cruising, and you see the login website right here. You can find this from the Kimberly website. Students, if you're logging in, try whatever you use for Infinite Campus to log in. Hopefully that is what you set your password as in 5th grade when they asked you to. If not, come find us, we'll hopefully help you out, okay? But this is gonna be a really awesome resource, not just for the students that are in the pilot. If you're on the pilot, you will become very familiar with this site, but if not, feel free to play around with it and explore. There are different career interest inventories. There are skills assessments. There's opportunities for you to look and explore different careers that maybe you've never even thought about before. Okay, as was mentioned previously, that's where our scholarships are also going to be located, and there's going to be lots of really cool features that you can explore and just kind of dabble with.
All right, the next thing that we wanted to cover was the Law Day system. So, as most of you already know, there's an honor system, a Law Day system here that's at the high school. We're just going to go over a couple changes and things for this year. So, a lot of this I might just kind of look over what's on the screen. This also will be part of the PowerPoint that's on the website, so refer back to it with any questions. So, first and foremost, in order for a student to be considered for the Law Day system, there's kind of 2 minimum requirements that have to be met. The first one is have a 3.4 index GPA and enrolled in a minimum number of index courses by the end of quarter 3 of senior year. The minimum that's listed is 6, 10, or 14 quarters, so for those classes. Meeting these requirements doesn't determine a Law Day honor. It determines if a student is able to be considered for those honors. So awarding Law Day honors. So Law Day honors are awarded to the highest performers in a graduating class, and that's ranked by the number of index courses they challenge themselves in high school. And this is determined at the completion of quarter 3 senior year. So kind of how it breaks it down, the top 5% of a graduating class are awarded summa cum laude. The next 15%, and all those that are tied with that same benchmark, are magna cum laude. And the next 20% is cum laude. So typically the next slide is going to be students who receive honors in each of the 3 categories, the minimum quarters that has been passed. So cum laude was between 10 and 14. Magna cum laude between 15 and 21, and summa cum laude between 23 and 29 quarters. This is from the previous year's graduating class. So to kind of finalize things, most students received a letter this summer which included their current index GPA and the number of index quarters completed to see if a student is meeting the 2 minimum requirements, those 2 that I mentioned earlier. The KHS Law Day honors process is structured to recognize students who take academically challenging courses for the value of learning. So obviously that's encouraged to continue doing that as well. And I'm actually going to turn over to Mr. Viola to wrap things up.
So what is next? Basically the message here that I would say, and you can read what's up on the screen, but what we're trying to do is provide some tools that you can use. Whether it's web links on the website or whether it's you downloading the paper copy of the career planning guide. Like I said before, great tools to use. But like any other tool, I might buy the world's most expensive hammer, and if it just lays there on the ground, it really is just an object laying on the ground. Now if my son picks it up and starts helping me do some work, now it's a great tool. It's just like all of this stuff. If it just sits there and nobody ever looks at it, it's just kind of information sitting there in no man's land. But if you kids take a look at some of this, crack it open, trust me, it's you don't have to look at everything in the course booklet because you might have narrowed down some things that you want to do and pushed aside some things you know you don't want to do. So there's only little parts of it that you have to look at. But many, many questions that we counselors get throughout the year, we can often crack open the course planning or the career planning guide, and that question can be answered. So the more you guys, parents and kids, use that guide, the better off you're going to be. And that's really what we want you to do is use those tools. So please do. Again, follow us on KHS's Twitter and Facebook account. We do put some good information throughout the year that is important to juniors, especially as you look into your senior year. And again, please visit our the Student Services website. She went over some of the links, but there's just so much more information. It would take us hours to go over it all, but you can look at that yourself. In the Career Cruising website, I'm going to give that another plug. If you go in, log into that. If you can't log in, we'll help you get logged in. Great website, very intuitive. It's one of those websites that nobody really needs to teach you how to use it, students. It's kind of like Facebook. Nobody taught you how to use it. You just went on there and figured it out. Or Instagram, or any of those things that you kids use. So it's a very good website with lots of good information to help guide you in the right direction. So with that, I think we're going to get into, we did have a number of questions that were being asked that we want to do our best to answer. Should we start from the top down?
Okay, so there's several questions here regarding ACT. One question was, is the February ACT taken through school with writing or without? It is with writing. So every student will take the ACT in the end of February. That's not the national test date. So that's the state of Wisconsin. All students in the state of Wisconsin will take the ACT test at the end of February. That test, everyone takes the writing. When you take the national test dates, which were listed on the screen, the September, October, December, February, April, and June, those test dates, the national ones, you have the choice of taking the writing or not the writing. Okay, so if you took the writing, obviously you're going to take the writing in the end of February. Some schools don't require the writing, so you may not have to take that again. So you would just, again, have to check with your schools to find out, do you need to take the writing portion? Yep, and that was actually, why are there so many scheduled ACT dates out there? Because everyone's schedules don't work for them. Students might be working, they might be in extracurricular activities, sports, where they can't take the test in September, but they can take the October, or whatever it might be. That's why they offer a variety of them. It's very different when many of us as adults, when we took the ACT, we took it one time. It's not the same anymore. Variety of the test dates out there for students to help meet their needs. Because students are involved in a whole lot more than what I know what I was when I was in high school. There's just a lot more on their plate. And then we had a question about, oh, I actually put that on there. I put on there, I wanted to make sure that it was working, so I put on a question, where do we find scholarship information? But I think everyone hopefully saw where that is. It's going to be in
There was a question, how do I get more information about apprenticeships? I usually steer people towards the Fox Valley Technical College because they do have a person who's in charge of the apprenticeship programs, and they can usually get people in the right direction. Again, in our career planning guide, there's a website on there for Wisconsin apprenticeships, and you can go on there and find out. It's all governed by the state of Wisconsin, and then it kind of filters through the technical colleges and employers. So I steer people towards the technical college to start.
In the booklet, there's a contact name and number as well for Fox Valley Tech we can contact.
Contact name and number in the book, good. This person asked, what do I do if I choose a path to go down, and a few years into it, I decide I want to do something else? And I think the answer is the same, whether it's you chose to go to the world of work right out of high school, or you chose to go to a four-year college, or you chose to go to tech college. First of all, talk to the people in your life that have guided you, that care about you. If you are at a college, there's actually counselors, career counselors at colleges. Talk to those people. Let them know how you're feeling. Let them know that you're thinking about changing directions. There's people out there to help you out with things like that. So I would definitely say, if you get to that point in your life and you just think, this isn't for me, I want to do something different, there's nothing wrong with that. I'd rather see people do that earlier in life than go through and say, well, I started this, now I have to just finish it, now I find myself in a job for the next 20 or 30 years that I can't stand. So, now I also don't want we don't want the other either, where you're flipping every 2 years because you can never quite make up your mind on anything. But that's why we're here today. Like I said to begin with, we want you to start thinking critically about this. That's why it's so important, so we're not flip-flopping for the rest of our lives.
Then there was another question about the ECT and Fox Valley Technical College. There are a couple programs at Fox Valley Tech, usually medical-related fields, that do require an ACT score. But again, now that all of our students will be taking the ACT, you'll be able to use that score. They do have a conversion chart for the ACT. So some students may not need to take the AccuPlacer, which is the exam that they use at the technical college system. So they'll take your scores on the ACT and convert that over. And if you're meeting the minimum requirements to get into your program, you'll be considered program ready and you can register for classes. If you don't meet the minimum requirements on the ACT, that's where we have students who will then also take the AccuPlacer. Because the AccuPlacer, the process of the exam is very different than the ACT. On the AccuPlacer, it starts out with questions. When you get one wrong, it takes it back a step and makes it a little bit easier and works you way back up to those more difficult questions. So they are measuring some different things in there. So that is a good question, but we're curious to see how that evolves, how many students will now need to take the AccuPlacer because they do take the ACT. We're curious to see how that kind of unfolds over time now that everyone's taking the ACT.
Just a couple more here that I can see. Do technical colleges have athletic programs? They do, at least in the state of Wisconsin. I consider them, they're more like a kind of a club program. But they do play against other technical colleges. Like I know right off the top of my head, I know Fox Valley Tech has a basketball team. They've got other teams as well, but they have league play, they have interleague play, they go play other technical colleges. So that is a question though. People say, I want to play sports in college, but I'm interested in the tech. So it's not quite the same. They might not have, full contact football, but they do have different sports for people that want to stay athletic and do some things like that.
And then there's a couple questions here left on our lauding system. The first one is the lauding system comparable to how other high schools award laudings and honors. I don't know specifically. I haven't followed the other high schools how they are doing that system. I do know that not all schools have an indexing system where you're awarded extra GPA to honors level classes. Some schools do, so it's really varied. And I think too, it also depends upon the number of lauding points and honors level classes that are available at school. So that would be something that you might have to check into. So I don't have a clear answer on that.
I'll just throw a little bit in with that. Many high schools give those credentials, so to speak, to say the top 3 people. So maybe they have a graduating class of 400 kids. 3 kids are graduating with those honors. Part of the reason Kimberly High School decided to go to this new Laude system is we can give many more kids those honors, graduating with honors, and we feel if you look at the banners when you walk out there, our school has high academics. We're known for it. So we don't just want to give honors to those top 3 students because there's many students under those top 3 who have also worked very hard and got 4.0 GPAs or 4.1s even. We feel they should be recognized as well. So that's why we do it a little bit different than some schools. Instead of just recognizing 3 people, we can recognize 30 or 40 people. Which out of a class of 400, those people should be recognized too. So that's my 2 cents worth on that one.
Then there's a question, are lauding honors based on GPA or strictly number of AP classes? Answer is yes on both. So it's based off your GPA. You have to have that 3.4 GPA minimum to even be qualified. And then it's based on the number of AP classes, honors, CAP, CLEP, all of those classes that meet the criteria. It's based on how many of those that you take as well. So you have to have the minimum GPA of the 3.4, and then also it's based on the number of AP you take, and then where do you fall in your class, top 5%, and so on. And then someone asked, if a student has 25 laude points, does that mean that they aren't necessarily graduating summa cum laude? They'd have to be in the top 5%. The answer is yes, you would have to be in the top 5%. Yep, it's all calculated after the 3rd quarter of senior year, yes. And then the last question that I'm showing here is are there test dates for SAT subject tests, and when are those most often required? Again, all of those subject tests, you're going to have to look, it's going to be based a lot of times on the major you're going to go into, what areas you might score really well on, so you get a little more choice when you pick those subject tests sometimes, and also what the schools are going to require. So some schools may want a specific subject test that you have to take, so again, you have to look at what are the schools requiring, and it would go along with the dates that we put on the screen, and then just if you go to the College Board, or they'll have all of those dates there as well.
Okay, so one last question that I saw in there, and it was a student, I'm sure, saying, is this almost over? So that's our cue. It is over. We're going to stay up here for a few minutes if you want to come and ask some other questions that we find. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
Wishing Corey would have come to this instead of me. I'm like, I have no memory of doing this with the other kids. I don't know if we skipped it or if Corey did it. Well, no, I think Carly had soccer practice, so I guess he got the easy half of divide and conquer this time.
I guess. Wow. I go more good to see you take care of
I know they're excited for school. I mean, maybe summer vacation. Oh, okay. Okay. You got one of those.
Just one. Just one. Not three. I was like shooting for 7%. At the high school. Or like 1. It'll cost me more to get it fixed.
Really? I'm almost positive we sign up for that.
Camera recording.
Find out.